So this is Baruch Flashman back here at the Tikkun Elevator Kolo, and we're going to continue on in this little piece of Torah. This is the part 2 of the first day of the week of, this is the week of Chesed, first day of the week of Parshas Toldos. Now we learned some deep secrets here, and I tried to explain this as best as I could. We have to understand that what's Panimi, what is Panimi to what. So we understand that the Ein Sof Baruch Hu was Panimi to everything. Everything that exists is manifest from that line of Kedusha, which is the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. But we mentioned that we can't really understand that. It's beyond our ability to understand nothing, how nothing can generate something. We do have explanations, but it's still complicated. The first place that we really have to have a grasp, where we get a little grasp of how light is generated, is in the parts of which is called Eric Anpin. Now let me show you my little crude drawing, and I really would like to have more sophisticated drawings, better ones. I'm looking for them, and I had a good drawing of this, and I don't know what happened to it, so I haven't been able to find it. So what we see is that the central cylinder here, the central column, we will make this, relatively speaking, this is not an exact image because you're not talking about something which is physical. But to try to understand how it goes on is the Eric Anpin is in the middle of Atzilus. It is the reality, it is the core of reality that we understand, but it's hidden. And one of the reasons why it's hidden is because it's wrapped in Ava Ve'ima Eloi and another parts of wrapped, and that is wrapped in turn by Yisrael, Saba, and Tavuna, which is another parts of, and finally they're wrapped in Zohar Parshas or Zer Anpin and Malchus. So this is the structure of Eric Anpin. Now, if we thought in terms of Eric Anpin as a man, then you would see that you would be talking about, well, a man with his, let me put my finger, I'm doing this, oh, here we go. The man would be, this would be his shoulders, this would be his chest, this would be his hips, or his nai, what we call his nai, and then down at the bottom is going to be the karka v'tzilus, which is where the malchus would be. Now, we mentioned another idea, and the idea was that there is another partzuf which is manifest and is panimi to Eric Anpin himself. So all we understand is Eric Anpin, but he has energy sources within inside of himself. And this is called, coming from a partzuf called Atik Yomim, that name, the ancient one, the ancient days. Now, we don't really understand Atik Yomim very well, but we do know that it's manifest in Eric Anpin. Manifest means what? It is underneath Eric Anpin. It's panimi to Eric Anpin, and it shows itself through Eric Anpin. And particularly in a place in Eric Anpin we want to focus on is what we call the Gevura, the Zion lower, the 7 lower spheros of this parts of called Atik Yomim goes into the head of Zer Anpin. Say it again. The lower 7 spheros of Atik Yomim goes into the head of Eric Anpin. And as a result of that, it stimulates different actions in Eric Anpin, and one is in a place way up at the top, buried deep inside, called the Muchas Timah, that is the closed brain, the enclosed brain, unknowable really. But what we're dealing here is the manifestation of the Gevur of Atik inside of the Muchas Timah of Eric Anpin, and then spreading to the other partzufim. And let's look at the Zohar now. So that's deep stuff. So if you're following it or just appreciating it, it's a good thing. A Mamshik Rebbe Shimon the Forish. Now Rebbe Shimon, going on this line, continues and says like this: Su boile is pashta, but the Muchas Timah, which is hidden inside of the brain of Eric Anpin, Od Ratzach Muchas Timah his pashit, but it doesn't want to stay there. It wants to spread out because it has all kinds of chokhmah in it. The his pashit lamata me'ima. It spreads down below into Ima, v'livrova v'thesakin is Zer Anpin, and to create and to build Zer Anpin. V'nafek mahai aser esha umaya v'rucha. So this place that is from this Muchas Timah comes out from this place, what is it? Esha, fire, water, and ruach. So he's a kama de itmar, we say like the v'yatza v'nasa ma'osar ha'makom. So what happens is that there is a connection between the Muchas Timah, which is the Chachma of Eric Anpin, and the Chachma of Zeir Anpin. The different partsufim, as we showed in this drawing, is that Zeir Anpin is really surrounding the Nai of Erik Anpin. It's way outside of Erik Anpin. Bechinas Eish, but what it has within it is the aspect of fire, water, and air, kamo shalamando, because the Nanamatik wants to help us out a little bit. What's this fire, air, and water got to do with it? So it's a V'ratzon Lomar, she nisaken sod chagat, that from this moach stima, inside of the moach of Erik Anpin, of Zeir Anpin, he's able to build chesed, gevurah, and tiferes, which become the body of Zeir Anpin. And they are on the right line. That's chesed. Gevurah is on the left line, and tiferes is in the middle. Now they correspond to also, chesed is water, gevurah is eish, and tiferes is air. Shehim klalus gimel kavim shel Zeir Anpin. So the creation of these comes from the mochstimah of Erik Anpin. Bis aved chad kola. And as a result of this creation, they make a voice, one voice. V'na'aseh v'chem kol echad, kol hu kolu me'esh ruach u'mayim. Because these three forces, which are water, fire, and air, that as we put them together, that we see that they actually make a voice, because the voice is composed of the behind the klal of Zeir Anpin, the general three lines of Zeir Anpin, and nikra kol, they're also called, that is, Zeir Anpin is also called by the word kol, voice. Al Shem Zeh, because of this, because of the mixture of the three elements that are the right line, left line, and middle line of Zeir Anpin. Then he says, the nafka labar, the ishtamah bakama de itma. The kol zeh, so there, this voice that we're talking about, yotza the chutz, it goes out, v'nishma the kol kumo shalamadnu. So as we are learning, the voice leaves the mouth, so to speak, a metaphoric mouth of Zeir Anpin. V'az ha-chochma de Erik Anpin, and what happens when it leaves there, the chochma of Erik Anpin, mislaveshes b'chochma de Zeir Anpin, it clothes itself in the chochma of Zeir Anpin. And in regards to them, it is said, Chachmos Bchutz Tiranah, that these Chachmas now they're outside and they're able to sing. Why? Ki kol rinas beis Chachmos, because the celebration of these two Chachmos as they meet, yotzim l'chutz, they go out to be mashpia to the world around them, or to the lower worlds, l'makom magilui, to a place where they're not covered up anymore. Keden mitamen l'halon ihu chutz. From this point on, in the meeting of these two chachmas, they are considered to be outside. Ba'az achar tikun Zeir Anpin. So now Zeir Anpin is created in such a way that he can process light. And again, the concept of tikkun is the concept, and this is really important to know, is the concept is maltus la'or. That means limiting the light, because the light of the Ein Sof is the light of nothing. It's not physical. And the Ein Sof, what he's trying to, we could see the result, what's happening is that we're trying to create a physical world. So he says, with goodness, hopefully. So he says, Achar tikun Zeir Anpin nikra hu b'chinas chutz. When it's in that situation where the two chachmas have met, it's considered outside. Now, Matok helps more. He's Ratzon Lomer. Kashinisaken Zeir Anpin. When Zeir Anpin is built into a parza for processing light, Oz nizgalo hachagat, then you see the revelation of the three lines. Sheheba b'chinas hanhagas chesed din and rachamim. These are the three lines are the secret of how things work with chesed, din, and rachamim. V'nikarim v'nishmoyim l'kol, and everybody sees it, everybody hears it. Ka'adam mashmiya daber kol. So like a person who raises up his voice, all of a sudden as a curtain comes up, and there is the chagat. V'lechein nikra Zeir Anpin b'shem kols, and that's the reason why Zeir Anpin is called a kol, because it mixes these three elements, which at the same time produce a voice. Tahal l'goy b'chashoy ihu, dolo ishtem al-almim, ki bifnim. If you go into the deepest recess of Ima, because Ima gives birth to Zeir Anpin, so then you had Chesed and Gevurah, they were together, as if they were one thing. They were still incorporated together, then you weren't able to really see the difference between what is Chesed, which is kindness and the flow from the top to the bottom, and Din, which is different, which really looks to criticize, and as a result of that, it flows from the bottom to the top. And then you have Rachamim balancing these two different opposite forces. So all the way that they work, It was really, in fact, inside of the womb of Ima before Zer Anpin is born out. Shalot nishma kolam la'oila, but there is no sound. They're hidden in there, and they're shut up, and you can't recognize them. But now that you have the meeting of these two Chachmas, now it's called outside. It's no longer hidden inside of the womb. So now this, he calls it this hanhaga, this way of operating, this operating system in Zer Anpin, shebo nishma v'nizgalgala hanhaga l'kol l'chein nikra chutz, because now Zer Anpin is able to be heard, to be able to reveal all of the mechanisms by which the world functions. L'chein nikra chutz, so therefore now it's called outside. B'kan boy barnash l'asaskana ba'avidutu. So therefore, looking at Zer Anpin, looking at what it takes for Zer Anpin to be mashpia, he said, Zer Anpin lamata. So we see like this, a person has to be careful. He says, in regards to Zer Anpin and going down towards us, Gamba Malchus and including Malchus, Saraka Adan the Histakim B'Masav, a person has to be careful about the things that he does. Ratzon Lomar means to say like this, Ayedecha Torah, by learning Torah, and tefillah, v'avodas Hashem, and also the avodas Hashem, all the things that we do, ma'alei ma'im nukvin. This is a concept that we need to understand. When you go to pray, it is an extremely important time. And the more that you can learn about prayer and how to direct your prayer, the better it is for you. And so he says that this prayer and this Torah study is called Mayim Nukvin, the female waters that go from the bottom to the top. Now you see this all the time. You see that the concept of, there are two concepts of the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top. The top to the bottom is the masculine way, that's called Or Yashar, and from the bottom to the top, which is the female way, is called Or Choser. So he says Mamshichim Mochin Ma'ava V'im Lezun, and as a result of your prayers and your Torah learning, you're causing Shefa to come from Ava V'im, because they mate, as we had discussed over here, and they bring it to the Zun. And that's a little bit hard for me to understand exactly what he says, but I'll translate it. He said, V'kama macham l'shol. So now here is the place where you can ask, I guess means ask God. Ask God. V'gam l'kabel d'shuva. Because in this place where the two meet, behind this thought is the fact that they don't meet all the time, that the chesed, the unbelievable whiteness of Eric Anpin, and the redness of Zer Anpin is very dangerous by himself if he doesn't have Eric Anpin to sweeten him. So basically behind this idea is this. This is a moment when the two meet together, when Zer Anpin is being influenced by that whiteness and he's really turning into white himself. Zer Anpin is flexible. It could go either way. He says this is a time of acceptance. Ki Bina, because Bina, which is mashpia to Zer Anpin, Nikras me. Her name is called me. It's number 50, but it means she is who. In other words, who sent all of this? Bina. L'hora she'efshar rak l'shol, because it's possible, he says, only you can ask about Bina. L'shol bought to ask about her, or ask her. But this is also believed Kabbalah's tshuva, but it's not coming back down to tell us the answer. And this last part, I didn't really understand it really well, so maybe somebody out there listening can drop me a line and help me out with this. Anyway, this is Baruch Fleischman of the Tikkun Elevator Kola, and we're finishing now the second shiur on Parshas Toldos for Yom Rishon, the day of Chesed. This is Baruch Fleischman.